This is Football Manager Touch 2017 on PC. This is the version on Steam, and this is a quick video to highlight some features which aren't particularly well documented in terms of what this version of the game has compared to some of the other versions, like the full PC version or the iPad version, which is also called Football Manager Touch. So the first thing we're going to look at are the options when you're starting a new career, and in particular what options you have when you're selecting the leagues you could manage in. So in the full version of the game you have full control over what leagues you have at the start of the game. You do in this version of Football Manager Touch as well on the PC, so you can choose as many of these leagues as you like. He says, oh there we go, if you remove nation and league restrictions, then you can choose as many leagues as you like. You can see it mentions there that it'll cause the game to run more slowly the more leagues you choose, which is true, and it gives you a kind of star rating into how much of an effect that will have. This also highlights one of the differences between the iPad and Android version of the game, in that I think you're probably restricted to leagues from 3 different countries, maybe, something like that. Whereas on the PC version of Football Manager Touch, you aren't restricted. And for those like me who like to play a journeyman style game where you start at one club and move across to different clubs, there is the option, if you follow this through and start a new game, you can start as an unemployed manager and then apply for jobs at clubs which have a vacancy. So you can do that on Football Manager Touch 2017. So if we go back to the start screen and load up my current save, I'll show you another few options which vary between the different versions of Football Manager. So this PC version of Football Manager Touch, you can play local multiplayer, so you can add a new manager and they can select a different club to manage, and then you can play it like a normal local multiplayer game on the full version. I don't believe that's an option on the iPad version. I think that is single player only. But on the PC version of Football Manager Touch, you can have local multiplayer. So let's play a match. So as you can see, I'm currently managing Galway United. We've got a match coming up today, so I'll just show you what that looks like. So first thing we do is look at our tactics. So this is what the tactics screen looks like in Football Manager Touch. Like other versions, you can, from each position, you can select what type you want. Actually, if I select some players first, let's just get my assistant to select. There we go, so my assistant has selected some players. You can obviously choose who you want in what position yourself. And then for each one you can choose, for example, for a wide midfielder, where they want to be a wide midfielder or a winger, and it gives them a little rating into how good that player is suited to playing in that particular position. So for this player, they're probably best suited as a winger, and doesn't have to be much difference between support or attacks. You can play them either as an attack-minded winger or a more supporting winger. That's the same for all the positions. You can move people around, that sort of thing. The way I tend to set up tactics is with a basic formation like this. Set some of these so that they're suited to the player that's playing in that position, and then I go to the team instructions, where you can specify things like the tempo, the width, how high your team is going to play, how direct you want them to play, that sort of thing. So now I've selected my team, I'm happy with my tactics. It's time to play the game, so if you just go to continue to get to the match preview, team selection, well, I've selected them, I've done my tactics. Now if you hit the play button up in the top right hand corner, then you will play the game as normal with the 2D match engine. You can change tactics through the match, that sort of thing. What I like to use is this instant result button, which you have on Football Manager Touch. So if you just click the instant result button, you can see that you can use a match plan. So on your tactics you can have match plans, which are basically, if you start from an existing template, like one of these, so let's strangle a game, then you can specify some things about how you want your tactics to be changed. I tend not to use it, but you can set it up for different scenarios. And you can specify when it's used. So if you hit the instant result button, your assistant manager, who's going to take charge of the game, will then use your match plans. I tend to not use a match plan. I just like them to stick with the set of tactics that I've got set up here. So I just tend to go straight for instant result, let it simulate the match, and then we'll see what happened. So I go into my news, looks like it was a 2-2 draw. Then what I tend to do is just view the highlights, because you can view just the goals. And then this is right with your tactic. And then the beauty of the instant result button is that it reduces drastically the length of time it takes to play a season, because matches can go on forever sometimes, especially because there's no option when you're playing the match as normal with the 2D match engine. There's no option to just see the goals. It always shows you all the key things which are happening through the match, which can easily be at least a dozen things, or maybe even more. So if I close this, there's a couple of other things I was going to have a look at. The first thing is staff. So these are the staff throughout the club, and this is it. So for example, if you look at the Chief Scout, there's only one scout on each team has only one scout on Football Manager Touch 2017. There isn't a huge scouting team. Same for coaches. There isn't a whole coaching team, you just have your assistant manager. And then it's a combination of that assistant manager's stats and the training facilities at your club, which determine how well your players will train. Similarly for the scouting, it's just the chief scout who determines what your scouting ability is like. So if you look at scouting itself, and we go to assignments, here I've set up some assignments for my scouting team. So I've got them looking at Central Europe, I've got them looking at the UK and Ireland, and I've got them looking at the next opposition. So because of the stats of my chief scout, I get a scouting team of 3, which means I can have them looking at 3 different regions at once. And you can also get them to scout individual players at any time, and they'll do that pretty instantly. In terms of training, at the moment I've got my assistant manager dealing with training, so they decide exactly what to do. They'll even set up, I think, individual training for particular members, that sort of thing. I tend to ignore the training side of it at all. If you're having the sort of career where you can stay at one club for a long period of time and try and get individual players through from the youth system, that sort of thing, you probably want to concentrate on training a lot more than I do. The last thing I was going to show you quickly was that if you're playing this on Steam, you can compare how your score against other players. So if you go to leaderboards, this is the all-time leaderboard. If you click show only friends, then you can see I've got 2 other Steam friends who also play Football Manager, and you can see how their score is compared to yours. Obviously they're playing better teams than I am, so they're winning more trophies than poor old Galway United at the moment. So there we go, that's a quick video that's just highlighted a few things that I found it difficult to find out before I actually bought the game and looked at it. Things like whether you can change what leagues you have active, whether there's multiplayer, and exactly how simplified the scouting and training is.